What's going on, you bunch of heathens? Literally just renamed the file from the music, and we're hopping straight into the history of it. I'm super excited to hear what the difference is between this and the Swedish one is. So, let's jump in. Should be fun.
I'm Indy Nidell.
And I'm Per from Sabaton, and this is Sabaton History.
As always, the original's linked below. Make sure you guys go and give it a like.
The 30 Years' War,
Never get over
400
that
years
intro.
ago, pitted Catholic Europe against Protestant Europe.
And 30 years was pretty much what you would call a lifetime. A lifetime of war.
Yeah. Honestly, yes. I mean, not only was life expectancy just in general shorter back then, but that's 3 decades of your whole life. Like, this was 1600s, right? Do a quick Google search right now. Life expectancy 1600s. Yeah, it was low. 35 to 40 years. High infant mortality. Those who survived childhood lived to their 60s or 70s. So either way, that's still half of your life. That's still an insane amount of time to be at war. And as we learned through the Swedish one, entire families were with you because they were going to be gone for so long. So entire families went with like their father to war. And entire generations, a generation grew up in battle zones, more or less, which is an insane thought. God, yet again, I'd get this as a fucking print. Some of these look dope as shit. I'd love to get them as like a print and hang them on my wall.
Reformation that kicked off a century earlier. By 1618, the Holy Roman Empire had grown deeply divided into Protestant, Lutheran, and Catholic territories. But this mostly German empire, even though in reality more of a multicultural patchwork of many duchies and dioceses, was still technically an empire ruled by a single emperor of the Habsburg dynasty, and it was his duty to uphold the peace and the rights of his subjects. Emperor Ferdinand, however, who had promised religious freedom to the aristocracy upon his coronation, was going back on his word. Now pursued a new policy of re-Catholicization.
Imagine that, a politician going back on his word.
Of his crown lands. In mainly Protestant Bohemia, this meant closing down Protestant churches and empowering the lesser Catholic clergy once again. For the Bohemians, this did not just threaten the open practice of their religion, but the actual real power of the mainly Protestant landowners. As their protests were repeatedly ignored, powerful Bohemian aristocrats finally came together against Habsburg rule. In Prague, the Bohemian capital, on May 23rd, 1618, they took action and threw the imperial officials out of the window. Yep, this was the second defenestration of Prague. The word comes from Fenster, the German word for window. So to
I had a nickel. But not a lot, but it's weird that it's happened twice.
defenestrate is to chuck someone out of one. Okay, with this symbolic defenestration, they had, in actual fact, openly declared war on the authority of the empire. For the Czech patriots and anti-Habsburg radicals, this was a welcome chance to take up arms. Rebellious provinces sprang up all over. They secretly raised militias and hastily organized detachments of Bohemians, Moravians, Hungarians, Silesians, and hired mercenaries.
Any
fell on
other
imperial outposts
Isians?
and blocked their supply lines, hoping to gather support from yet other provinces with a series of quick successes. Protestant rebels even stormed the Hofburg in Vienna in an attempt to physically seize the emperor and force him to sign their demands. The rebels rejected Ferdinand and the imperial constitution and wanted a commonwealth of their own,
ballsy as shit.
like that of Poland and Lithuania, led by their own king in a constitutional monarchy. Their uprising failed, however, as the Habsburg emperor was not without friends and support. Imperial
Not a big
propaganda
surprise.
portrayed the Bohemian uprising as arch treachery that disturbed the peace of the empire, and many staunchly Catholic dukes pledged their allegiance to the emperor. Ferdinand had been caught off guard, sure, but he had no intention of giving up the crowns of Hungary or Bohemia, which might even jeopardize the structural integrity of his whole empire, and he was determined to go on the offensive, to quell the rebellion with
Not
fire.
a surprise. Imagine that the ruler won't give up a bunch of his fucking land. Ignoring the fact that it could be, you know, bad to the actual integrity of his nation. It's also he won't give up his land. Why would he?
And sword.
From dawn to dawn they're fighting, day will they stand. The fog of war I sleep, where armies scorch the land.
The war itself seems at first like localized rebellions over cultural and religious differences, but in reality, it revolved around the future of the Holy Roman Empire. Which was the primary Christian religion? Who had the power, the emperor or the dukes and their possessions? Political unity under one belief, or even more fragmentation with religious liberty? Ferdinand's strongest ally came from Bavaria. The zealous Duke Maximilian re-established the Liga, a covenant of Catholics, and raised an army with the blessing of the papacy. Under the command of his paladin, the Count of Tilly, they were eager to take the fight to the Protestants and forced them to battle in late 1620. The Battle of White Mountain was one of the first major engagements of the war, and one of the most decisive ones. Tilly's forces, better led and supplied than their enemies, won a major victory and then took Prague that winter. But
Yes, if I'm not mistaken, we learned about Tilly through the Swedish one, I believe.
as kings and dukes quarreled over cities, estates, and property rights, for the common people living in Prague and the villages along the trail of armies, the horrors that accompanied war became reality. And this was not a temporary situation, because this war is called the 30 Years' War, because that's how long it lasted. And it is often said about the war that the longer it went on, the more the violence and cruelty intensified. But really, the seeds of uncontrolled violence were already planted in the early stages. Discipline among the common soldiers was usually pretty low, and more so on the side of the rebels. Irregular forces particularly raged among the local populations. Polish skirmishers, Hungarian raiders, and Croatian cavalrymen terrorized panicked peasants and refugee columns. Marauders and bandits roamed alongside the marching armies, and the enlisted soldiers were often not much better behaved. Especially after long and dangerous sieges,
That's
when
sad to
pumped
think
up
about.
and often drunk soldiers had been forced to storm a city under fire, they would afterwards take out their rage and fear on the locals. From house to house, they plundered and stole everything they could carry. If they did not find anything, or if others were quicker than they were, because it was first come, first serve when it came to plundering, they would
Looting.
turn on the
I like
helpless
that.
citizens. Men, women, and even children were brutally tortured for the slightest chance of hidden valuables. Since this
That's
was
so
often the
fucked
only
up.
way the soldiers could make actual money to feed and equip themselves.
Yeah, that's the only way they could have, but at the same time, that's no just real justification for that. It's honestly the worst part about learning about history and war is the brutality that you learn from it is fucking horrendous.
And their families, they could not afford to show mercy. Many simply embraced boundless, unchecked violence as a new way of life. The fall of Prague marked the collapse of the Bohemian Confederation, but the
God,
war
and the
itself
peasants had
obviously
nothing to
did
do
not
with
end,
it.
as the triumphant Ferdinand failed to take advantage of his victory. He would not listen to any compromise of his demands to restore his full authority. There was no chance for religious equality after the revolt, and instead, he condemned captured rebels to an agonizing death, while the escaped
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
he condemned
This is very fucking elaborate for a fucking death. Holy shit.
captured rebels to an agonizing death, while the escaped ringleaders were under an
I think I've
imperial
seen
ban.
this one before.
Together with the confiscation and distribution of rebel property. This just further escalated the war and drove many new Protestant champions to the cause of the rebellion. The war that began as a rather localized conflict in the east and center of the empire spread to the north in the 1620s.
Yeah, it grew infinitely bigger.
Imperial and Liga forces entered the zones of influence and interest of other great powers. In 1625, Danish King Christian declared war on the empire to secure his influence in northern Germany and portray himself as a Protestant savior. The Hanseatic League outright refused cooperation with the emperor and insisted on its autonomy and neutrality. The Polish sovereign Sigismund, on the other hand, was sympathetic to the imperial cause and introduced the Cossacks to European warfare.
Yo,
but also
the Cossacks!
attracted the attention of the Swedes. In 1630, under the king and Lion of the North, Gustav Adolf, they set out to secure their interest in the Baltics. A strong Catholic influence in the north could not be tolerated by the ambitious House of Vasa, while Spain, themselves busy with Calvinist rebels, also sent out troops to help the Imperials. The French, who would rather see a fragmented Protestant Germany than a unified Catholic one, at first supported the northern forces with money, until in 1635, to prevent a peace treaty, they entered the war themselves. The war grew and grew, as did the armies, as did death and suffering. New knights appeared on the chessboard. Rich and ambitious men like von Mansfeld or Wallenstein aimed to get even richer through the war. Von Mansfeld tried to establish his own legend in the defense of Protestant liberty, while Wallenstein on the opposing
Ernst, I think we've seen both of their pictures before in the last history episode.
Side raised thousands of men for the emperor in his own pursuit of elevating his status among the nobility. War was business. War gave common but ambitious men a chance to rise in society. Experienced mercenary groups traveled from engagement to engagement and fought for the highest bidder. But the way to the top was paved with the blood and lives of thousands, then millions of men. Killing had become a normality, and authority broke down everywhere as the war expanded. Harvests were confiscated, cattle were slaughtered, people starved on the streets, and besieged cities even resorted to cannibalism. Peasants took to guerrilla fighting and formed robbery gangs and militias to fight off the marauders. But the major killer was disease. Where armies go, sickness follows. And for every battle, thousands more died of a variety.
Okay, so we know around when this happened. Give me 1 second. Okay, never mind. I thought this was around the time of the Munster Rebellion, which Wendigoon did a video on, which was super interesting. It's on my channel. I did a reaction to it. No, that happened about 100 years before this in the Holy Roman Empire.
Of diseases like plague or Hungarian fever. Rodents bred
Typhus
in the crowded cities. Wolves roamed the countryside, and cats and dogs disappeared in the kitchen. Religious hatred rallied religious zealotry, and many captured priests and nuns were murdered and mutilated. Popular acts of barbarism included pulling ropes so tight around people's necks that their eyes popped out. The Schwedentrunk was especially disgusting, forcing the victim to swallow large amounts of liquid excrement. Another fun game was to make criminals or deserters gamble for their lives and punishments. The lucky throw of dice would decide if a man lost a hand, his tongue, or his life. Trees were full of the other unlucky ones. There are only estimates as to how many people died, as records naturally lack specific data. The highest estimates are of a death rate of 40% of the population compared to the pre-war population numbers within the empire. But even with the lower, nowadays more often accepted numbers of around 15%,
that's still a lot.
It was possibly, or even likely, the deadliest that ever raged in Europe by percentage, including both world wars. In the public conscious, it was not only a war, though, but a 30-year tragedy that ravaged the German lands and killed so many people, it would take many decades to replenish those lost. A whole generation of people lived through 30 years of war. From when they were born until when they were up to 30 years old, they knew no life but constant war and terror. And there were even soldiers that served from the beginning in 1618 to the end in 1648, often in different armies on changing sides, but still serving. And who could have predicted that the war would last so long? Between all the religious ideals and
God,
politics,
I could not
who could have
imagine
made
that.
sense of all the violence? Who could have avoided it? Who wanted to and who didn't? There was plenty of time to answer such questions. 30 years. 30 long years of war.
God, there's so many fucking dead. Holy crap.
So, Per, what are we going to see now?
We have some really amazing footage that pretty much nobody have seen. We shot
Ooh.
a music video
for
for a
Lifetime
Lifetime
Award,
Award.
yeah.
Very
Oh,
few
you
people
did?
know about it because nobody have seen it.
I didn't know about it. I haven't seen it.
I have not seen it because actually the footage was lost.
Well, lost?
Oh.
Like somebody left it on a train or something?
And no, the guy disappeared. The guy who filmed it,
I was gonna say, I didn't see it.
disappeared.
Sorry,
And
that's funny.
until today, we have not been able to obtain the original footage.
Okay.
So,
So if he's out there, maybe he can return the footage?
that would be great.
That'd be great.
But
Okay, is
until
that-
then,
Yeah.
we
Must never have happened because I didn't see a music video for it.
actually had our fantastic fan club in Poland, the Polish Panzer Battalion, who were there with us when
Okay.
we were shooting this. And they helped us to produce kind of behind the scenes of this.
Okay, during the video. shoot.
Yeah. What we're gonna see
that's
now
cool.
is pretty much behind the scenes of a music video that never
Nobody's
became
never
a-
seen.
I feel dirty. So fucking dirty.
Well, you're getting blown about. You got dirt everywhere.
Okay. Well, and there you have it, ladies and
I just gotta say, I love the fact that they all look pretty much the fucking same since the very beginning.
gentlemen. We hope you enjoyed that today. I certainly enjoyed it. That was totally new for me,
And that was supposed to be the music video for a Lifetime Award, which never happened.
which never happened. And maybe one day we will actually get to see that video if that guy brings back the footage.
Resurface.
Okay. Well,
I
thank you
haven't
very much for
seen it.
today, Per. We will see you next time on Sabaton History.
Aw. I didn't really get history of the song.
That's it for today.
I was hoping to get more history on the song. Like, I know we got some for the Swedish version, but I was hoping we'd get a little
Hope you
bit
enjoyed
more.
this week's episode of Sabaton History Channel. There will be another one every week until we run out of songs. It's gonna take a while. So until then, enjoy it, support us, become subscribers, become patrons, and see you soon.
Yep. See you soon. That was a fun one. Like I said, wish I got a bit more of the song, but it's whatever. Originals link below. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. And until next time, you guys take care of yourselves. See ya.